There's been a few points in my life where it's been extremely clear that the Lord wants my attention and He will lay me low to get there. I really like to chart a course. I like to get a sense of what's going on and then point the direction to that place. And the reality is that as a leader, I need to really downshift my own expectations or my own desires. And part of that is just consecrating my plans to the Lord and dependency on Him. And one of the earliest times was when I was in the country of Chad. We were doing a Jesus film recording, which is putting the Jesus film into one of the local languages that are spoken there. And I got malaria. And I'm very project-oriented. I wanted to get this thing done. And I remember being really sick and still trying to push through. And to the point where in the evenings I would crawl into an ice-cold bath to lower my temperature so that the next day I could wake up and work. And then I remember my wife, who was traveling with me at the time, saying, "Do you think that's a good idea?" I'm like, what do you mean? That's a great idea because I will still be able to do this thing. And looking back on it, I mean, that's a ridiculous example because that was not a good idea. I ended up going to the hospital, being diagnosed with malaria and typhoid. And it got to the point where like I threw up, and there were several staff around me, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's malaria." They could tell like right away, and typhoid. That's how they diagnosed it. And then I went to the hospital, and sure enough, that's what was happening. But everybody was like, "Okay, we recognize that you are not able to continue. Why can't you recognize it?" And it took all of that, being humiliated, to just kind of stop. And I remember being hooked up to a couple of different IVs and, still trying to figure out a way for me to, like, the next day start up, and the Lord saying, "I don't need you, actually, to do this thing." And it wasn't so much of a blow to my pride as a recognition that, you know what, there are other people that are doing this, that He's called, and He doesn't need me to effort this thing through. What He needs is dependency and an acknowledgement that I'm human and not to put expectations on myself and on my human condition that He doesn't even expect from me. And so unfortunately, I've had to learn that lesson a couple different times throughout my life, but each time it's still that voice of like, why are you trying to do more than what I'm asking you to do? And that's a really powerful question from the Lord. And usually the answer is because I'm really not trusting you. And that's humbling. Really, if I were to distill it, it's wanting to be in control and wanting to do things my way. So the other side of the coin is that when the Lord lays me low, or when I recognize ahead of time, which is more these days, that the Lord wants to do something, then there's no anxiety that need to be felt. Like, it's going to happen in the Lord's timing and in His way, and usually it's a lot more beautiful. But when I power through, the opposite happens. People get frustrated with me. I feel frustrated with myself. I feel frustrated with them, or I feel frustrated with the Lord. When I'm feeling frustrated, that's a sure sign that I'm operating in my own strength and my own plans, and I need to lay that down as quick as possible. And that's really the yoke shift for me, or the taking on the Lord's yoke. I don't have to figure it all out. I can just let the Lord do what He will, knowing that I've done what He's asked me to do up until that point, but outcomes are in His hands. It's not me, or it's not the ministry that I lead. It's not even the team that I lead. It's the Lord's. All of it is the Lord's. It goes back to dependency. So if you're a doer, if you're a hard-charging individual, there's something inside of me, maybe inside of you, that wants to hear the Lord say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." But the question that we need to actually ask is, okay, Lord, what are we trusting You for something that is beyond what I can think or imagine? And that's the moment where I can actually feel the Lord's pleasure. I can almost feel a Holy Spirit smile when I do that.